Good afternoon. Welcome to District 5's Crime and Safety Meeting for the month of March 2021. Again, we are still virtual. We can't wait to be able to do this in person, but for now, you'll just have to bear with us as we work through some of the things that we have to do during this pandemic. I am David Feldmeyer, Captain of District 5. Today, we'll have some guest speakers from our trauma response team. We'll go over some crime and safety tips, crime trends, some of the ones that we've talked about over the last few months that continue to be a challenge for us in our district. We will go over some crime stats from February of 2021, and we'll also talk a little bit about our Ring Doorbell program. So as we get started, as I talked about before, we'll talk about the trauma response team. We have Lawrence Thomas and Rolanda Jones from the trauma response team. We'd like to welcome Rolanda as a new member of that team. The trauma response team is a partnership between the City of Milwaukee, Office of Violence Prevention, Milwaukee County Children's Mobile Crisis, us, the Milwaukee Police Department, the Milwaukee Fire Department, and other community organizations to respond to children who've been exposed to trauma or stressful experiences either directly or in their neighborhoods. And we welcome the help of Lawrence and Rolanda and all the great work that they've done. So I'm going to turn it over to them and have them talk a little bit about trauma response team.
Go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Rolanda, and I'm here with my coworker, Lawrence Thomas. And we are here today just to give you a little bit of background on the trauma response team. We do want to give a short overview first, though. With that overview being, what is TRT? Trauma response impacts on children and the functions of TRT.
The trauma response team started its inception with District 7 in 2015, and then District 5 came on board in March of 2017. We continue with additional partnerships, and we're always trying to expand with other agencies.
Children who are exposed to trauma have difficulty identifying, expressing, and managing emotions. As a result, they may experience depression, anxiety, and sometimes anger.
First, we want to kind of discuss what is trauma. Excuse me. Trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event like an accident, rape, or a natural disaster. Immediately after the event, there may be shock or denial. That's typical. Longer-term reactions include unpredictable emotions, flashbacks, strained relationships, or even physical symptoms like headaches or nausea. These feelings are normal. Some people have difficulty moving on with their lives. Now, our team, excuse me, trauma response team has been featured in several local news segments, with the most recent being on Spectrum News, speaking on the topic of trauma as it related to the Molson Coors shooting. Now, we know everyone experiences trauma differently, and stress is experienced on a continuum. You have adaptive and protective stress responses. That's that fight, flight, or freeze modes. But we also know what happens when a child experiences constant or overwhelming stress. Through the 1998 CDC and Kaiser Permanente Childhood Adverse Experiences study, we know that the study looked at 3 categories of adverse experiences, and that's child abuse, child neglect, and household challenges. The study also revealed that the more adverse childhood experiences a person had led to poor health conditions and also, in some cases, premature death. There was also a Philadelphia study in 2013 by the Institute of Safe Families formed a task force to examine the impact of ACEs on urban cities with a socially and racially diverse population. Now, that Philadelphia study found that a higher prevalence of ACEs were found than previous studies. Now, our role, excuse me, our role as clinicians, we meet the families where they are and we provide supportive services and resources. Now, this may include food, clothing, household items, and other necessities. Our team provides emotional and mental support to help start the healing process as well. We work to highlight the importance of mental health, to break down the barriers and the stigmas associated with mental health treatment, especially in our brown and Black communities. When you begin to talk about mental health, people say, well, hey, I'm not crazy. So we work to minimize and dismiss those misnomers. Our goal is to offer skills and strategies to help the child better understand, cope with, and process the emotions without re-traumatizing them. We work with the youth to regain a sense of control over that traumatic event that they've experienced.
Now, any child ages 5 to 7 who has witnessed or experienced any potential trauma, they can be referred to the TRT program. However, we would have to have parental consent before we could speak with the child.
This is in general what one of the forms looks like. You want to talk about the parents? Oh, excuse me. In paper form, we typically get in paper form by our police and the district attorney's office. Other forms of referrals can be through email or through phone call to our office. Parental consent, again, we contact those families within 48 hours of receiving that referral and begin to work toward meeting with them in their home or wherever they feel comfortable. A warm handoff, we find, has been very receptive for parents, in that just letting them know, hey, we got 2 mental health clinicians that we work closely with. If you don't mind, we'd like to share your information with them so they can contact you regarding your child.
The information that we need for follow-up on the referral would be the name of the parent and guardian or guardian, the name and age of the youth, the reason for the referral, and the accurate address and telephone number.
Once we schedule that assessment, well, I call it, once we're able to get in the house on the couches, we actively listen and help them normalize their feelings. We educate them on trauma and identify the symptoms of trauma. We work again to reduce the stigma regarding mental health, and we discuss positive ways that they did during the incident. And many times during the crisis, they don't realize that they did spot on work. So we try to get them to remember that. Most of all, we be patient. We discuss the incident at their pace. There is no rush. It may take 3-4 times to engage that family, depending on the trauma. But most of all, we work to provide coping skills and activities to promote the healing process. We work, again, to educate those families on traumatic stress, what some of that looks like, whether it be poor sleeping, anxiety, excessive worry or fear, isolation. Teens may begin to start using drugs or alcohol to self-medicate. They may see behavioral changes or mood, or also school-related issues. These are all some of the things that can be seen in children or youth. Do you have any other, if you don't have any other questions for us, I guess
We just want to say we enjoy working with you all. We thank you for all that you do in the community, and we look forward to continue to work with you.
With our outreach and partnerships, again, we work with 5th and 7th District. We attend the crime and safety meetings. Prior to COVID, we did the National Night Out. We still go with our faith-based initiatives. Hopefully in the future, any holidays and other special events we'll be able to attend, whether it be virtually or in person. We do trauma education, crisis intervention presentations throughout the community and with our partnerships. The resource fairs we attend, and we look forward to any collaborations with agencies in the future.
All right, again, thank you, Rolanda and Lawrence with the trauma response team. You have done some fantastic work in the community, and we look forward to working with you more and helping our youth with some of the challenges that they face, especially in some of the more challenging neighborhoods that we have. So thank you.
We truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Moving on, we're going to talk about some crime tips. Again, we've shared some of these over the winter months, and they continue to happen. So we're going to continue to pump them out. The first one we talk about are robberies. Again, we have this posted so you can read some of the tips, and we've gone over these over the last few months. But some of the more important things to remember is your safety comes first. Everything that you own, everything that you have on you is replaceable. You yourself are not. If somebody is asking you to give something up, please give it up. We do not want to see you hurt. Always be aware of your surroundings. Try not to let your guard down. I know many times we want to pay attention to our phones. That's a good way to really get lost in where you're at. Getting lost as referring to not knowing who's around you and what is happening. Somebody can come up close to you, get into your personal space. You may not be seeing some of the warning signs that maybe you're about to be attacked, something like that, because you're watching your phone. So please, heads up, be aware of your surrounding. Trust your instincts. If you don't feel right in a particular situation, move. If you feel like you're going to offend an individual because you've moved, you can always apologize, but it's a little too late to be able to get your security back once that has been broken. So if you're not feeling quite safe, move to a spot that you believe is safe. Go into a store. Obviously, if you see that there's a police department or a police station nearby, go by a police station. Flag down an officer if you see one. Security guards, people wearing uniforms. Trust your instincts. Maintain your personal space. Always know what's going on around you. I know when it gets cold out or you're using mass transit, you're on buses, you're at bus stops, places like that. We have a tendency to get a little bit close. Maintain your distancing. COVID has kind of helped us out already with that, where we have to maintain social distancing, but it's still good to be aware of how close that you're letting yourself get to other people. And then try and carry devices of communication like your cell phone, not to be staring at it all the time, but to have it for emergencies. Make sure it's charged, to make sure it's operating. Give a call to an individual, to family members, loved ones, friends, before you decide to leave the house, so they know where you're going, where your intended arrival is, so that if something were to be out of the ordinary, they can get a hold of you, and just to make sure that everything's okay, or that you can call for help should you need to. Moving on to garage burglaries. Again, some of the most common items that we find taken in garage burglaries. It's still the winter months. I know we've had a few really warm days, which also kind of makes it a good opportunity for many burglars who decide they want to get a jump on getting things that they can sell, like lawn equipment, snow equipment, bicycles, especially if we know that warmer weather is going to be coming along. tools, power tools, hand tools. Remember that most of the things that you have in your garage, like those power tools, bicycles, lawn and snow equipment, they all have serial numbers. Find a place to record those serial numbers so that should you become a victim and those items are out there, someone's trying to sell them at a pawn shop or resale shops, that those owners can take a look, can report them to us, or if we come across them, we can get them back to you. Make sure that your storage areas where you're storing the tools and bicycles and lawn and snow equipment, that it remains locked if you are not going in and out of it. Make sure the doors are closed. Even if you're working outside and you think, I'm in the backyard, they can hear me working, there's no way somebody's going to come up and take something from me. If the door is open, that's just another opportunity. You're inviting someone to come in and take those items. Consider adding a camera if you can, but definitely add lighting to those spaces that are a little dark, especially around doors and windows. Burglars are people of opportunity, and if you give them an opportunity that is dark and they aren't necessarily seen by your neighbors, they are going to take that opportunity. Moving on to vehicle security. We still have many cars that are being stolen. We talked about in last month's crime and safety, we talked about the trend of Kias and Hyundais that were being stolen. And we have a few more autos now that we're seeing a little bit more frequently stolen. And those are Toyotas and Lexus. The Toyota, specifically the Toyota Highlanders. So those of you who own them or neighbors who own them, keep an eye on them. We are still seeing Kias and Hyundais that are also being stolen as well. Some of the things, some tips that we can employ to maybe mitigate some of those auto thefts: car alarms, key ignition immobilization devices, steering column locks, steering wheel locks like the club, GPS tracking services if you are able to use one. Park your car in a garage. If you don't have space in your garage because it's cluttered, really consider trying to move some things around so that you can get your car out of the elements, and then two, into a secure location that you can lock. Park in well-lit areas, especially on the streets and in parking lots. If you can, do not leave your keys unattended so that anybody else can have access to them. And obviously, again, we've talked about this in the winter months, especially here in Wisconsin. Do not leave your car running and unattended, even just to warm it up, even if you're standing on your front porch or you're standing in your front window and watching. It is very, very easy for someone to break the window of that vehicle, get in, and drive away with your car. One trend that we did see that is coming from Canada, and I don't know that we've seen it necessarily here, although we have had issues with people who have left a key fob, maybe fall off their keys and falls into their car. Many times it's easy for someone to break into your car, and because that electronic chip with that key fob is in the car, they can still operate your vehicle. One thing that we have seen up in Canada that has been happening is that there are little relay key fobs where it's almost like a cloning of your original key fob, and all they have to do is stand close enough to you while you're operating yours, and they have control of it. They use kind of a relay. So please be mindful. Again, know your surroundings. If you're watching somebody that's standing by and they're just watching you get into the car, that's a little unusual. Well, maybe they're a fan of the vehicle that you're driving, but there's a good chance that maybe they're thinking about something else, either robbing you or taking your vehicle. So please, again, be aware. Trends that we saw last year that led to some of the violence in our community and in a lot of these neighborhoods were after set parties. And so we're going to touch on that a little bit here today, and we'll have more in the future on after sets. Many times these parties, they gather as many as 200, 300 people to a location, causing a lot of noise, a lot of traffic, and unfortunately, because there's alcohol involved and sometimes there's drugs involved, violence also follows. So the definition of an afterset, according to the city ordinance, is that it's an unlicensed sale or distribution of alcoholic beverages, operation of the public entertainment by individuals or entities that have not applied for and or received or that are not eligible for the appropriate licenses or permits required by the code of 8011, particularly when these activities take place on premises that are not zoned for commercial activities. That constitutes a public nuisance, and that's a violation of the 8011 ordinance. So simply put, you're selling alcoholic beverages, you're having a party atmosphere, maybe you have bands, maybe you have music, maybe you have a place where people can dance, and you're doing it at all hours of the night in a place that is not zoned for that, meaning someone's basement. Sometimes there's abandoned warehouses, sometimes there's abandoned houses that nobody is occupying as an actual residence, but people are using it for these afterset parties. Some of the ordinances that when they're violated, the 8011 and the 93-1 have fines that are associated with those violations. So if we know of them, we get called to them, we have enough documentation, or if we even have witnesses to these, we can write out citations and we can start billing some of the owners of these properties. And hopefully, if you get a stiff fine of $3,234.06, which is what the going rate is now for violating these ordinances, maybe some of those property owners start to think twice and maybe start to monitor their property or take steps to make sure that they have tenants that respect that particular ordinance. So some of the ways that you and the neighborhoods can help is if you see high volumes of traffic, if you're not used to seeing as many cars parked as maybe you're seeing on a really nice evening, if you're hearing noise, if you're hearing music from down the block, please call, let us know. Give us as much information as you can. Even if you want to stay anonymous, you can be anonymous, but if you can get us an exact location, meaning the address where you believe that the party is happening, we can do a lot with that. And we really, really need your help to find these out, because many times we won't know about them until something bad happens, something tragic, a lot of times ending in violence. And when we do the canvas, that's when we find out from the neighbors that, oh yes, this party has been happening every weekend for the last 3 months. And we would really like to try and avoid that. So if you can help us out, we will come and help you guys out. So moving on to February's crime statistics. And again, we're going to take a look and very simply put, numbers that are in green are good. Things that are in red are not so good. So when it's in green, it means we're trending in the right direction. It means that we've had a decrease in those particular numbers. So for our monthly crime stats for February, we went down in every category except for motor vehicle thefts and armed robberies. And those we're working on. So the motor vehicle thefts, obviously, you all can help with that by making it more difficult to steal vehicles and also calling when you see suspicious activity. And with the armed robberies, of course, again, being aware of your surroundings, being vigilant, and calling police if you see suspicious activity. For our 6-week, which I like to use really as an indicator of whether we're moving in the right direction. Again, those two same categories were where we are actually aggravated assaults is where we saw a little bit of an increase. And then Motor vehicle thefts, again, we saw an increase, but we saw a decrease in all the other crime categories. That's due to a lot of your help, being good witnesses, being vigilant, not making yourselves victims, and then also the hard work of the women and the men that work here at District 5 being a presence. So we appreciate that. Here we have a map kind of taking a look at our aggravated assaults and where they're occurring. Aggravated assaults covers everything from shootings to gun-related crimes to child abuse, disorderly conduct while armed, elder abuse, and many crimes in between. You can see on the map where we have things trending. Robberies, for the month of February, we had 8 that were firearm related and 7 that were without any type of weapon, strong armed robberies. So 15 in total. With the burglaries, we had 14 burglaries for the month. One of them was a church. We had 11 residential, 2 businesses. And I'm hoping that the number of 0 on the garage burglaries is because we're all paying attention and we're trying to use some of those tips that we've given you. So if that's the case, continue to do so. Motor vehicle thefts, again, still remain high. We've had 80 in total. 60 of them were taken without keys, but 20 of them were taken with keys. So again, we can't stress enough, do not leave your vehicle running with the keys in it and unattended. Moving on, our Ring doorbell program that we had here was very, very successful. We got a federal grant that was given to the Milwaukee Police Department, and we handed out Ring doorbells systems across the city. It required you to have Wi-Fi service in your home. You weren't obligated to have that though, but you was appreciative if you were willing to share those videos that were captured on camera that could help with some of those investigations. And many of you have, and you have helped. And so thank you very much for that. Some of the issues that we had setting up with smartphones and monitoring the system as well. And we also had some installation issues. If you have those issues, you can always contact the District 5 Community Prosecution officers, and we can try and help walk you through installation or find you people that can help you with that installation and operation of that, the Ring doorbells. We encourage everyone to get on the Nextdoor app, because it is a fantastic way to get information from us and to receive information from your neighbors and to just kind of keep up to date with any of the crime trends or things that are happening in your neighborhood. It's a way to kind of build our community. We encourage all of you to use Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, but we do also want to caution people that just talking about a particular crime on Facebook or Twitter is not the same as reporting the crime. So please call either the non-emergency number or 911 in order for us to generate a record that what you're calling about actually happened, and that we can get officers out there to you and can get you the proper service that's needed for that. If you put it on Facebook, we may see it, but we don't necessarily have an obligation to respond to it because it hasn't come through the appropriate channels. So please remember, call non-emergency number or 911. Do not report it on Facebook. That is not the official channel. Well, this concludes our crime and safety for the month of February. Our next crime and safety meeting will be April 6th, 2021. It is virtual at this time, but hopefully we will change the venue as more vaccines get out there and the health department starts to loosen up some of the restrictions. We hope to see all of you in person in the next few crime and safety meetings. And I thank you again for taking your time out of your day to join us on this Zoom. And everybody, please be safe and healthy.